Today we're doing something a little different, and I think you're going to want to save this video. We are talking about questions, specifically the questions that separate candidates who get offers from candidates who get passed over, and the questions that separate executives who build great teams from those who keep hiring the wrong person. Because here is the truth, an interview goes both ways. But most people only prepare for one direction. So we're going to cover both sides of the table today. 3 questions you, as a candidate at the executive level, should be asking every company. Next is going to be 3 questions specifically about the culture, because culture will make or break you in any role. And then finally, 3 questions that I use when I'm the one doing the hiring, because knowing what a great executive asks a candidate will also make you a better candidate. So let's dive in and let's get started. The first is questions you should be asking every company. The questions you ask as a candidate tell the hiring team everything about how you think. Weak questions signal weak leadership. Strong questions signal someone who is already thinking about outcomes. Here are 3 that I always recommend. First, what does success look like for this role in the first 90 days and in the first year? This question does something really smart. It shifts the conversation from evaluation to vision. Suddenly, they're no longer interviewing you, they are picturing you in the role. They're describing what they need, and you're sitting right there for it. This is a powerful mental shift to create right before you get to that offer stage. And practically, you need this information. You need to know how they define success so you can decide if their definition aligns with what you actually are capable of delivering. Next is, what are the biggest challenges this role will need to solve, and what has made those hard to solve so far? Now, this is a power question. It's a little uncomfortable, and that's exactly why you need to ask it. The answer reveals what resources they've been willing to commit, whether the problems are structural or people related, and most importantly, whether leadership owns their part in why things haven't been solved yet. A company that answers this question honestly and with self-awareness is a company worth working for. A company that gets defensive or vague answers, that tells you something too. The next question is, how does the executive team make decisions, and where does the role, this specific role, have real authority versus advisory influence? Now, this one separates companies that actually empower their executives from the companies that hire titles and then manage them into non-existent. You need to know what you're walking into, a seat of authority, or are you walking into a very expensive suggestion box? Ask it directly. A strong company will not flinch at this question. In fact, they'll appreciate the fact that you asked it. Now let's switch to culture questions. And I want to say this before we go any further. Most candidates never ask about culture directly. They talk around it. They hope they'll pick up a vibe from the room or by what everyone is saying or not saying. Don't do that. Ask directly, because company culture that you walk into, it's going to affect your health, your marriage, your faith, your longevity in that role. This is not a small thing. This is major. Here are 3 questions that really, I feel, pull back the curtain a little bit. The first one, How does the company handle it when a leader disagrees with the direction from above? Sit with that one for a second, because the answer to this question tells you everything about the psychological safety in that organization. Healthy cultures have real specific answers. They can tell you about a process, a moment, a value that guides how disagreement is handled. Unhealthy cultures get uncomfortable. They start to pivot. They generalize their answers. You want to work somewhere where your voice has a place, even when it's inconvenient. This question finds that out fast. Now, the second question is, what happened to the last person in this role? Simple, direct. And I promise you, most candidates never ask. The answer itself matters, but how they answer it matters even more. Are they forthcoming? Do they own part of what happened, or do they deflect and minimize? Do they blame and badmouth the person? You're not being rude by asking this. You are being thorough, and the right company will respect it. And you can see if they are one to point fingers versus taking their responsibility on their end. And it shows you how they respect people once they're no longer there. It'll show you kind of what they'll say about you if you leave. The third one is, how does leadership model the work-life balance they say they value? Notice the word model, not do you value balance. How do you model it? That word shift puts behavior on the table instead of policy, because every company says they value balance. The question is what their leaders actually do. Do the executives take vacation? Do they send emails at midnight and expect responses? Does the CEO talk about rest, or does the CEO work 7 days a week and quietly, or not so quietly, expect the same from their team? You need to know who and what you're walking into. Now, here are 3 questions I, as an executive, like to ask my candidates. So we're going to flip it a little bit, because some of you that are watching this, you're the ones doing the hiring. And knowing what great executives asks in an interview will also make you sharper as a candidate, because you'll understand exactly what the person across from you is trying to figure out. Now, here are 3 questions I use and a little bit of why I think they work for me. The first one, tell me about a time you had to deliver results with less than ideal resources. What did you do, and what did you sacrifice to get there? Now, this question is about resourcefulness and honesty. Anyone can perform when everything is going right and when you have the resources. I want to know, what do you do when it doesn't? The second part is, what did you sacrifice? Is the part that reveals their character, because great executives know that every trade-off has a cost. And I want to see if this person can put a name to it and give me an example. The next question, what's the hardest feedback you've ever received, and what did you do with it? I'm not looking for perfection here. I'm looking for coachability and self-awareness. Someone who can't name a real piece of hard feedback, or who frames every piece of criticism as someone's misunderstanding, is someone who is not growing. And someone who is not growing will eventually stop your team from growing too. Did you catch that? What I want to hear is, here's what was said, here's how it landed with me, and here's what I actually changed because of it. I want to see their humble leadership. Now, the last question, what is the most important thing you've learned about leading people, and what did it cost you to learn it? Now, anyone can answer the first half of this question. Every experienced leader has a lesson they'll share. But the second half, what did it cost you? That is where the real answer lives. What I'm listening for is honesty, specifically a moment where a person had to reckon with something or something in themselves that needed to change. Someone who answers that question with a polished, painless story hasn't been tested, or they're not being real with you. Either way, you'll learn something really important. And someone who can sit with that question with the humility and truth, that is someone who is worth putting on your team. I hope you've got a few takeaways. Whether you're sitting across the table as the candidate or you're the one doing the hiring, the quality of the questions that you will ask always reveals the quality of leader you are on both sides of the table. Don't walk into your next interview unprepared on either side. Know what you're going to ask, know why you're asking it, and pay attention not just to the answers, but to how people answer. That's where the truth lives. I hope this was helpful. Share this with someone who's in the interview process right now, either side of the table. And subscribe, because we talk about a lot of things here. And always remember, don't leave Jesus in the parking lot before you walk into that room. Live life rooted, and I'll see you next time.